Hi guys, Matt Collins here from Beausoleil. The rig I want to show you today is a variation on the Mono D rig. It's also kind of harks back to the original kind of trick rig, the Beausoleil rig that I came up with quite a few years ago as well. I've been using the Mono D for years actually, but this is a kind of a refined version of it. It's really simple. It uses minimum amount of components. All you need for this is just some mainline actually. Anything will do, whatever you're fishing with. Could be £15, could be £25, but whatever you're using for your mainline. I'm going to be using the big game for this. The other thing I'm going to be using is some out-turned eye hooks. Apart from that, that's all you really need. All right, let's get into it now. Okay, to start we're going to take the mono and we're going to pass it from the front of the eye straight out of the back, and I'm going to lay about 40mm down the shank, and then pinch the mono just down there like that, and we start whipping with a knotless knot, whipping away from the joint in the eye. We just whip down until one more, till we're opposite the point, and then once we're opposite the point we go up, and it's at this point that we choose how long the hook length is. 27 centimeters is what I've been fishing most of this spring at, so we just mark off 27 and trim it at that. So then we're going to take the mono, and this is the really important bit. You must pass, I'll do that like that so you can see. Right, you must pass the mono from the back of the eye of the hook through the front. You must exit the front. If you don't exit the front, your rig will be, to be honest, pretty useless. So that's it. A very simple, very neat little knotless knot. Next one I want to do is I want to tie a loop at the other end of this. Today I'm going to show you how to do the mono non-slip loop knot. So just take the end of the mono here, we take an overhand loop, and we want to put that loop, so if you want the loop to be about 25mm long, you want that to be about 50-60mm long, something like that. So we take that loop, I'm going to turn it around here, and so once we form that loop we go back through the loop. If you just stick your finger in that loop there, and then you can control the size of the loop, you can see how it's forming together, and we take the tag end and we're going to whip 1, 2, 3. So we whip down there and then we pass back up through the loop. Just keep it all nice and tight, nice and neat here. Once we get to that point there, we can start managing the size of the loop a little bit. So I want to make this loop a little bit larger. If we just hold the knot, just ease that through, you can see that that's going to be about 25mm when I tighten it up. So I just wet that down again before we actually close that down, just putting it between the two pillars here, and then a nice slow steady pull. Give it another little wet, and that should close down beautifully. Now if I take a look at that knot, it's really cinched up nicely, very neat. If your knot isn't fully cinched, then it's going to fail on you basically, and this is critical when using mono. I'm going to just cut the tag end there. Right, back down the other end now. To form our D, we're going to take the tag end and we're going to pass it from the back of the hook and exit the front of the eye. Now I'm going to pull it right through so that we have yeah, the D is quite compressed. And then I'm going to trim off that bit and take our lighter and shield in the rest of the mono. Blob it, dab it, and hopefully if we've got this right, there we go. We've got a lovely little D sat off the back of the hook like that. So that's the business end of the rig. All we've got to do now is put a bait on it. So to mount a bait, just going to take our baiting needle here and pass that through like that. Then we take another piece of mono. This is the same mono, just a piece of mainline. Fold it across the needle and pull it through the bait like that. Then we turn the bait round. And we take our rig. We take the tag end of the piece that we just passed through the bait. We pass that main line through the D loop. We take our baiting needle, re-stab the bait through exactly the same hole, snick the mono again, pull it through, pull the rest of the mono through, and all we want to do now is just pull that mono back until there's 20-25 mil sticking out the front, and then we close the loop down, and we want that loop to be big enough so that the bait just sits on the back of the end of the hook there, just off the bend like that. We trim both tag ends to be even, then repositioning the loop where we want it, so it was about that. Just hold that loop if you can there to stop it moving. Take your lighter and then melt down like that. Blob the ends and you'll see the bait just sits off the bend there like that. So what we've done here is we've used the cut and blob technique on the mono to do away with a hair stop. There is no hair stop. That blob is big enough to keep the bait on. The whole rig just sits like that. So what I've done here is I've eliminated fancy hook link. There's no other swivels, there's no D-rings, there's no micro ring swivel, there's no flexible hair, but the whole thing has an amazing amount of movement. No matter what I do to that bait, the hook always just hangs down, ready to catch as a fish. It's even got some rotational stability there because I can rotate that rig round and the hook just stays there. It's incredibly anti-tangle. If I just hold that there and try and wrap that bait round, as long as I don't make that loop too long, it will not tangle. It just wants to stay fishing for you. So this makes it fabulous over fishing over particle, which is what I've been doing a lot this spring. Because of its anti-tangle properties, it makes it really good for fishing at any range. Even if your casting's a bit rusty or you haven't quite got there on your skills yet. So if we just have a look at this on the palm test, it's over and it's in. It's not turning over in the last 5 mil. Most of my hook holds have been at least 20 mil back, if not 40. And you can see why, because it's turning over absolutely instantly. There's no kicker, there's no bit of shrink tube that I've had to put on there. There's no steaming of this rig. So that's the business end of the rig. What I'm going to show you now is a trick running lead system that is much more efficient than a traditional semi-fixed rig. So for this next part of the rig, we're going to need some leadless leader. This one happens to be a metre length of 65 pound Duracord. So we take our spliced leader, be it a brought one or one that you've just made, pass the loop through the swivel, and then I'm just going to do a loop-to-loop connection just like that. The other thing we're going to need for this is a run rig kit. This happens to be the Fox one, but you know, all the big brands do these, and the component we're going to need for it for the minute is the buffer bead. We're going to take our buffer bead and from the narrow end just pop the baiting needle in like that. Then we'll take our spliced leader and we just pull the buffer bead on like that and slide the leader material all the way through it. Next, from the run rig kit, we need the actual run rig itself and the quick change swivel. We'll just pop those together like that. Then we take our leadless leader and run it through the run ring. Then we need some tapered ball beads. These ones are the 6mm. Now the diameter of these is quite important. You'll see why at the moment. And we take a bead, pop it on the baiting needle, loop on our leadless leader and thread that on. We pull that down over the splice down to meet the run ring. If you're fishing back loads, what you're going to need to do is take a second bead and pop that onto the leader as well. But this one only gets slid down a little bit like that. Next, we can attach a lead to the quick link. Now I've been using a variety of sizes of leads for this, from 1 ounce to 4 ounce. So it's whatever you need for the fishing situation. If you want to be really neat, you can slip over one of these silicone sleeves. Bit fiddly to get on these sleeves, but they do make it a very neat job. So I'm going to show you how to connect this now to the main line. This isn't actually connected to my rod, but we'll just pretend that it is for the minute. We're going to go once through and twice through. So we've gone twice through the loop like that, and then I'm going to whip down 1, 2, 3, and then pass through the loop that I've made. I'll just hold that so it's gone through all of those loops there. Ease it down, wet it up. Here's a little trick that I use quite a lot. If you just take a lighter and wrap the line round the lighter, hold it nice and firm, wet the main line, and then just wrap the lead around your hand, give a nice steady pull, and then we want to be really sure that that's not going to break, so we give it a damn good pull. That's really solid, that knot. If it breaks, do it again. It's no good fishing with untested knots. So that's not going to let me down. And then just trim the tag end. And we take our little bead and we'll slide that bead up and we'll sit it actually on top of that knot like that. So what we're going to do now is connect the rig to the lead system, pass the loop through the eye of the swivel, and once the loop's through, just take the hook and take the bait and pass the whole lot through that loop that we made. You've got to make the loop big enough so that you can easily pass the bait through. If it won't pass through, you've tied your loop too small. And that's a great way of doing a quick change rig connection. No quick links, no silicone sleeves, no anti-tangle sleeve, simple mono loop to loop. Strong, reliable, interchangeable. Been fishing this way for years now. So that's our finished rig, ready to catch us a carp. Right, so that's the rig done. What I've got to do before I show you how it works is I've got to wet it, otherwise it's not going to work properly. Let me show you how this works. There we go, there's the rig on the bottom. Carp's going to come along, it's going to pick that up, and the first thing he's going to do is going to feel the weight of the lead. As soon as he feels the weight of the lead, he's going to try and eject the rig, and he's going to do that by shaking his head. So one shake, dunk, it's off, and that rig is now a running rig. Yeah, so what he's going to do, he's going to move away, and that bead is going to slide up to the top of the leader. It might stop there, it might stop there, but what it does is it prevents the carp from using the weight of the lead to eject the rig, which is a really, really useful trick. So when you wind in, obviously you're playing a fish, lead drops back down to the bottom. If you wind in and there's no fish there, lead's down there, if the bead has been whizzed up to the top like that, basically it means that the carp has gotten away with it for whatever reason. Blunt hook, damaged hook, something got in the way, bit of bad luck. It does happen, you know, but if it looks like that, you've been done. If you've had a massive bite, for example, bobbing chomping at the top, even the clutch spinning or whatever, that you wind in, there's no fish, you've struck and hit fresh air basically, you wind in and the telltale bead is down the bottom. Well, what's happened is that the fish has swum through the line and the rig's been pulled from the lead side. Lead has even been moved, yeah, but the point is that there was no pressure on this end. You wind in, beads down the bottom. It was a massive liner. You haven't lost a fish, you haven't been done, you haven't missed an opportunity. You know, it's just a massive liner, and there's nothing you can do about it really. Just rechuck and go again. Okay, let me show you what this little top bead is doing. If you're not fishing a back lead, you don't need this top bead, but if you are fishing a back lead, then you absolutely do. We've got a 6mm bead here. You need to use a back lead with a hole in it that's smaller than the diameter of that bead. It just happens that the quarter back leads work great with this system. So basically the back lead is going to slide down, it's going to hit that top bead and stop there. Now if you didn't have a top bead there, that back lead's going to slide down and he's going to smash that bead out of the way. So that's the telltale bead. If the back lead moves the telltale bead, you have no idea what's happened, because when you wind in, basically that back lead's going to be right down there like that, and you have no idea what's going on. So that's why the top bead is so important. So the example that I did when we did the how-to tying of it, that was just a standard bottom bait. That's what I use 99% of the time anyway. If you want to do something a bit different, if you're a massive pop-up fan, then absolutely no issues with making up this little pop-up version of this mega simple rig. I've had to use a D-ring because I've got a floss style corkball pop-up here. If you were just using a regular pop-up, you could just do the, pierce it with a mono like I did on the bottom bait. If you want to fish double baits, not a problem. There we go, it's just a longer loop there, 2 baits on there. If you like to fish snowmen, critically balanced, little fake corn topper or something, no problem either. Just mount that on, still got the mono loop there. If you do a bucket test on this, it just sits like that. Bait sits lovely over the top of the hook there. So I want to show you another variant of this. Lots of waters have got leader bands, so if that's the case, you want to fish a rig tube variant of this. All I've got here, standard swivel lead, rig tube, standard tail rubber, and all I've done is I've left the tag end long when I've tied the mainline knot to the swivel. You fold over the tag end and just nick the swivel onto the tail rubber there. I'm going to wet this, otherwise it's not going to work. Wet that up because it will be wet obviously in the water. And like that, fish is going to come along, dunk. Same trick system, still turns into a running lead. Now, if you wind in and the tail's out, then you've been done. If it's still tucked into the swivel, like that, then it was just a massive liner. Exactly the same principle. Let's have a look at this from a rig safety standpoint, yeah? So the first thing to notice is that these fox beads, the actual plastic there is not terribly strong. If I was to actually do a pull test on this, and I have done, so I know this, that ring breaks with about 10 pound of force. So if that lead were to get trapped, and this got jammed up somehow, as long as the fish can apply 10 pound of force, and that's no problem for a carp of a reasonable size, that actual ring will break. So it's safe that way. Other reasons why it's safe, well, firstly, those beads slide real nice. If those beads don't slide nicely, then you've got a problem, because that's an unsafe rig. So a fish is pulling at this end, continues to pull, that bead slides, and he's going to hit that other bead, and then they're off. They're off, sliding up the main line, and if the main line fails, is cut at all, those beads are going to fly off, that ring's going to fly off. So yeah, it makes it a very, very safe setup. There's no danger there at all. Other ways that this system is safe, these beads happen to be very soft, and if I squeeze, that bead pops straight through that ring. So if for some reason that bead became jammed, that ring will pass clean over that bead, no problem. So you don't have to use the fox ones, but do use beads that are soft. Now, because I've done this with a leader, I will always just, you can buy barbless, but this just happens to be a micro barbed. To make a barbless, from a micro barbed, just take a pair of pliers, crimp the barb. Job done. Very safe. Again, in the case of mainline failure, as we saw, that lead's going to come away anyway, but the fish is going to have no problem spitting out that barbless hook. So again, it's safe, safe, safe. So what are the advantages of my trick running system versus a classic lead clip system? Well, very common mistake I see is putting the tail rubber on way too tight. Yeah, if you put the tail rubber on tight, fish comes along, picks up the rig, and is going to try and shake the rig out. Now, you put the tail rubber on too hard, and lead stays there. Fish is simply going to swing that abound, and he's going to use that to shake the hook out. So if you're going to fish with a lead clip, just nick it on. Yeah. If I'm fishing with a lead clip, I'm fishing it because I want to dump the lead, because there's weed or because there's hazards. And if you just nick it on, when the fish comes along, it's going to shake that off. And that's what happens if you push it on too hard. If you just nick it on, fish comes along, picks it up, shake, bunk. That's how it must work. So there we go. A really great rig, super effective, tangle free, fished over all sorts of bottoms, short, medium, long range, whatever you need it to be. Give it a go. Let me know how you get on.